So we've understood aspects about planning. Now we will discuss the next section. This section speaks about conquering your presentation nerves. Yes, presentation nerves and anxiety are a reality while presenting. A lot of times people present in front of their top management. A lot of times people present in front of more than 20 or 30 people. What happens in such cases and scenarios? You are the focus of attention and hence you develop a stage fright or anxiety. Anxiety is a common aspect and a problem which people the world over have faced. I have also faced anxiety and have overcome it through certain techniques and tips which I will share with you today. Even the most practiced presenters get nervous at times. This happens because your nervous energy is being developed through the hormones and you can use this particular energy to your advantage. Surprising, isn't it? Yes. What you can do is you can use this nervous energy to communicate enthusiastically, convincingly, and passionately. Yes, we can all do that and make our presentations really effective. Next question that you would ask me is, how are we going to do that? Yes, we will discuss this aspect in the next slide. How are your nerves conquered, or how is your anxiety conquered? What I have here in this particular slide is 3 simple steps or 3 easy techniques to conquer your presentation nerves. The very first aspect speaks about knowing your material. Yes, I said it, know your material. You need to understand your content, the nuts and bolts of your presentation, the sequence, that is the order, as well as what you're going to speak on about each point in your presentation. I've seen a lot of speakers who use visual cues or even use paper to understand their content. You can also do the same. The next aspect is you can do a dry run to understand your content better, and that is precisely the aspect of practice. It is said practice makes man perfect. Definitely applies to the techniques in presenting as well and overcoming your anxiety and your presentation nerves. The final aspect that we're going to look here is prepare. Yes, after understanding the material and practicing it over, you need to go ahead and prepare a fruitful presentation. Thus, you can easily overcome your presentation nerves through these 3 easy techniques. Let us look at some more aspects about conquering your presentation nerves. These aspects are very interesting. Let's have a look at what they are. Practice deep breathing, drink water, and smile. Yes, these are 3 aspects which I will discuss in detail with you and share some insights. Deep breathing can be practiced through breathing through the stomach or the diaphragm. Normally we breathe through our chest. Yes, but if we breathe through the stomach or the diaphragm, it makes things simpler and easier for us, and it helps us to calm down. With a presentation coming up, a lot of people face aspects like a dry throat or knocking knees. These can be eliminated by drinking water. Your hormones can be controlled and you can relax and become calm by drinking a lot of water before a presentation. You can also use this to soothe your dry throat, thus enriching the quality of your voice. Smile. A smile is said to be contagious. Yes, when you smile at a person, automatically a person smiles back at you. You can use this to your advantage. How? Let's look at a small demonstration. When you come to a presentation, the audience's eyes are set upon you. What is your first reaction? You have a lot of apprehension when you come to a presentation. But once you smile, people are made comfortable. Yes, they're looking at you as a presenter, as a giver of knowledge. And if you are comfortable, you help them develop a better comfort zone. All this can be done by a simple process, that is smiling. If you smile, people smile back at you, and it makes things simpler. Apart from these aspects, I would also like to discuss the aspect of rapport building. Rapport building is a process in which you come to know people and thus make them comfortable. How is this done? This is done simply by mingling with people, knowing their names, understanding some of their unique hobbies or aspects, and last but not the least, a smile. A simple smile can put people at ease and thus make your job simpler and easier. So, we have 3 more techniques to conquer presentation nerves. Let me reiterate these before I go on to the next slide. The very first speaks about practicing deep breathing. I've shown you the technique, that is to breathe through the stomach. Take deep breaths and close your eyes, relax, and think about the positive aspects of you presenting. What can these be? Probably a lot of knowledge gain by the audience. You need to also think of your presentation as fun, not just for the audience, but fun for you as well. Yes, if you know your content well, and if you enjoy standing in front of an audience, presenting can be fun. Drinking water can be helpful at times of a long presentation. Sometimes presentations can run for half an hour or more. In these situations, drinking water will be a helpful aid. Last but not the least, we have discussed about a smile. A smile is very helpful in creating effective presentations, not just delivering content, but developing good rapport amongst the audience members as well. Let's look at the next slide. Yes, this we have discussed. Let us discuss this in greater detail. This is nothing but the process of building rapport amongst the audience members. Very first step is, yes, you notice this? It's smiling and making eye contact. As we all know, communication happens through the eyes. Yes, they say eyes speak. So the very first aspect of communication will happen through an eye contact. I spoke about Hitler as a very effective presenter a few slides back. Hitler had this aspect of eye contact. He had the required amount of lighthouse effect. We will speak about lighthouse effect in a subsequent slide, but here I would like to tell you that you should have a soft gaze and a direct eye contact with all members of the audience. If you don't possess an eye contact with all members of the audience, you end up disengaging some members of the audience who might not interact well with you because they might think you are not looking at them, you're not paying attention to them, or simply not engaging them well enough. The second aspect is start knowing your people. These are the people who value you and spend their valuable time with you understanding objectives of your presentation. So it is very important to know people. There is a saying in presentation skills, you need to begin before you start. What this means is you need to begin on a good note, on a positive note, and you need to start building bridges and relationships with people by knowing them. Simple things like knowing their name, knowing what they do, and knowing where they come from can go a long way in developing a good amount of rapport. The last thing is begin before you start. As I said in the previous point, you need to begin before you actually start. So some amount of small talk, mingling with the members of the audience helps a lot. Yes, you can go ahead, speak to the members of the audience, and you can know names, you can understand their hobbies, and thus before you begin your actual presentation, you can begin before you start. Are these steps helpful? Yes, What I request of you is to try and introspect. The next time you present, please go through these steps and definitely you can present in a more effective manner. Let us look at the next slide, which speaks about presentation skills and conquering your nerves through this wonderful video. In this video, the person speaks about simple steps which we have already discussed and thus reiterates the concept of overcoming anxiety through this particular video.
My name is Seymour Segnet and I'm the founder and president of CTRN, Change That's Right Now. If you have a fear of public speaking, it doesn't really help that it's an extremely common phobia, because I know it can feel like you're the only person in the world who has it in exactly the way you do, or with the same intensity that you do, or in the same situations that you do. If that's the case, you're in the right place now, because this is all we do. We're experts in helping people overcome fears and phobias exactly like yours. Here's the thing. There is no fear, there is no phobia, there is no anxiety that cannot be overcome. It just requires a total commitment on the part of the individual and the right kind of help. And that's it. That's it. The techniques for overcoming this kind of problem are surprisingly simple. They're very well established, highly effective. They were developed originally at the University of California at Santa Cruz. They've been used with millions of people around the world. You are unique, but the phobia, the problem, is not unique. I'm sorry to burst anybody's bubble here, but we really have heard it all. No matter how challenging you think your individual problem is, I assure you that we have come across something more challenging that is now not a problem for the person who approached us. So when the problem is gone, the problem's gone. Okay? It's kind of like, you know that first day after you've been sick for a while, and the first day you wake up well, oh my God, it feels great to be alive. You know that feeling? And it's kind of like suddenly I can go into that kind of situation and it just isn't a problem for me anymore. Whether you get the audio program, whether you work with us one-on-one, anybody can do this stuff. If you buy the audio program, it's money back guaranteed, of course. And if you work with us one-on-one, then we do a lifetime guarantee. We guarantee that if the problem should ever come back again, you can come back to us and we'll work with you again. It very, very rarely happens that anybody does that. But of course, we honor that in a heartbeat because that's who we are. I couldn't do this unless it was working. If I were to read you the testimonials that we have, we would be here all night and I would be in tears. We have a bunch of them on the website. But this stuff is absolutely for real. There's no question that you can overcome the fear. There's no question about that. The only question is, will you overcome the fear? Either give us a call so we can discuss the options with you, or give us a call if you know you want to work with us one-on-one. If the audio program seems great for you, then you can just pick it up online right here on the website right now. You know, to this day, it still amazes me to...
After having had a look at this video, we now realize the importance of building rapport and conquering your presentation nerves. We have now covered two important aspects of creating effective presentations. The very first aspect covered was that of planning. The next aspect that we have looked at and discussed as well as seen a video was how to conquer your presentation nerves. After covering two important aspects, let us look at the third section, which speaks about the use of effective body language. A presentation would only remain a presentation if you do not use effective body language. What comprises of body language is discussed in the forthcoming slides in this section. The very first point discusses about body language and what it comprises of. Let us have a look at the same. Body language comprises of gestures. Gestures are nothing but the movements that you make. Gestures comprise of the facial gestures like a smile or a frown or a serious look. You might also have the stance. The stance comprises of the way you stand. Are you standing upright? Are you leaning against an object? Or are you just wobbling? That all depends upon your stance. And as I said, the facial expression, which also is a part of the gestures. The next point is a strong, positive body language helps you to build credibility. Yes, if you portray good body language, you're portraying nothing but confidence and conviction. Confidence will help you win the hearts of your audience. What you do is you express your emotions through a strong body language. The last aspect is you connect well with your listeners if you are employing good body language. It also helps your listeners to focus more intently on what you're saying. A presentation can be effective when you're able to deliver the message to the audience. How would you do that? You would do that through the use of body language. Body language employs a lot of gestures. As I have spoken about, gestures are nothing but the movements of your hands, the movements of your facial muscles, which also can be called as the facial expression, and the stance. Let me discuss a few do's and don'ts with you for the stance. It is advisable for you to stand straight and keep your legs together in a stance which is both positive and confident. Folded hands across the chest definitely don't make for a good gesture, so this is definitely a no-no. You should keep your body open as a posture. The chest should face the audience. Never let your back face the audience. This is not a good way of presenting. Let us discuss the next slide and understand more about body language. In this slide, we will look at certain visual techniques for effective body language. There are 3 important techniques that we are going to discuss in this particular slide. The very first technique speaks about the 45 degrees method or technique, which is a very useful technique. Before speaking about the 45 degrees technique, I will demonstrate another technique because we will use this particular LCD screen as a whiteboard or a blackboard to demonstrate the 45 degrees technique. I press a simple key on the keyboard and yes, our presentation has vanished. It has disappeared from the screen. This is nothing but an effect which is called as blanking the screen. What I will do is I will go ahead and bring the presentation back. All this magic is done by hitting the B key or the B letter on the keyboard. You can use this whenever you're discussing any important point with the audience members or demonstrating or a role play or giving out important information in terms of a story. As I was saying, let me go ahead and blank the screen one more time to demonstrate the 45 degrees effect. Now our screen has gone ahead and it has turned into a blackboard. Let us consider I'm going ahead and writing on this particular blackboard. Normally, if you've noticed, a lot of professors, a lot of presenters, a lot of trainers go ahead and show their back to the audience and write in this particular fashion. Wasn't this a part of our school days as well? When our professors came and wrote on the board facing or presenting their back towards us. What used to happen? The backbenchers used to doodle, play games, enjoy chitter-chatter, and the professor used to get nervous or even angry and frustrated. Was it the student's fault? Definitely not. It was the fault of the presenter or the teacher. Now I will demonstrate a simple technique which employs the use of 45 degrees in order for me to go ahead and demonstrate a fruitful presentation technique. What we need to do is we need to keep an open body position to the audience and use a 45 degrees stance to the audience and write in this particular manner. What I'm doing now is I am not showing my back to the audience, but I am writing facing them. What this does is this creates interaction. There is another technique while presenting which is called as a space and a time trip. A lot of us have done this in our classrooms when we were in schools, when we were in colleges, and while professionally studying. What this means is we are thinking about some other things rather than sitting in a session and understanding the session. Our teachers used to call this as physically present and mentally absent. The 45 degrees technique helps you understand or refrain the audience members from taking a time and a space trip. Well, let's use the B button and let's come back to our presentation. Having understood the 45 degrees technique, let us now go ahead and look at the lighthouse effect. Well, as we have all seen a lighthouse, how does it function? Let me use the B key again and show you exactly how it does. A lighthouse does not have a fixed gaze. If you notice my hands, a lighthouse is moving with a slow gaze which is shifting. This is precisely how a lighthouse functions. What this does is, it helps you maintain an eye contact with members of the audience. We have two sections if the people are divided into columns with an aisle in the middle. We have a left section, let's consider this side as a left section of the audience, and we also have a right section. Let's consider this hand as the right section. A lot of speakers, mind you, have a bias towards the audience members. This might be towards one specific member of the audience or a left bias. So if I am a speaker who has a left bias, what I would do is I would speak to members on the left hand side. If I have a right bias, I will speak to members on the right hand side. So what I am doing in turn is I am not engaging all members of the audience. In order to do this, you need to have a constantly shifting gaze looking at each member for not more than 3 seconds and shifting your gaze. In this way, you need to cover all members of your audience in order to create the right lighthouse effect. So through this technique, I'm sure you will engage more and more members, and after practicing this aspect, will engage all members of your audience. Let me go ahead and again bring up the presentation for you. Last but not the least, we have to use confident eye contact. Your eyes portray confidence and conviction. You need to be confident enough to convey your cause or the purpose and objective of your presentation. This is done through eye contact. Yes, like the lighthouse effect, you need to portray confidence whenever you look at a person. If you are nervous, this will be easily seen through your eye contact. So you need to have a meaningful and a confident eye contact with members of the audience. Having understood the visual techniques for effective body language, let us move ahead and look at the next set of techniques for engaging your audience. The next technique or set of techniques for engaging your audience is nothing but the vocal techniques. Yes, as you must have realized and understood, after visually engaging your audience, you need to speak to them. We do not have the ability of telepathy or understanding our thoughts. So as human beings, we need to understand or make or to reach our communication through voice. How is this done? This is done through 3 interesting techniques. The very first technique speaks about a voice projection. You should be able to project the right amount of voice or loudness to members of the audience. Voice projection can be a practiced art. You need to understand the dimensions of the room, the number of participants, and project your voice accordingly so that you're clearly heard by the last member of the audience. The next aspect speaks about a voice modulation. What can be voice modulation? Voice modulation is a simple technique in which you modulate or you change the pitch and tone of your voice so that you do not sound monotonous. We Indians at times do sound monotonous because the kind of English that we speak lacks intonation at times. So what you need to do is, you need to pause and then speak. This is also an interesting vocal technique and also comes as a part of pausing and rate of speech, which is another aspect and a related aspect of voice modulation. Pausing. Let me demonstrate this particular aspect to you. Let's say I am going through a presentation and I am speaking about cars. How do cars help us commute? What kind of efficiency do cars bring about? Yes, cars are a safe means of transport. Cars can be used personally and give us a lot of privacy. Cars can reduce the amount of time that we take to commute. So in turn, what I'm doing is I'm pausing and then speaking about separate points. So what I'm doing is I pause at specific intervals to make the point of communication and the intent of communication clear to the audience. If you go on speaking rapidly, you will understand that the audience is not able to focus for more time. So in order to create interaction, stop, look at the audience, try and gather information from the audience, their acknowledgements, and then start again. This is a very useful technique and definitely comes with a lot of practice. So my advice to you would be, practice all these techniques and they will help you in a practical manner to create more effective presentations and also deliver them effectively.